Good afternoon, everyone. Ani namaste sabajanlai. I am Ashriya Maharjan, an HR consultant, coming live from the Job in Kathmandu Valley page today. Ani आजको topic रहेको छ हाम्रो Labor Act 2074-2017. So before we start with the live session itself, I'd like to give you a bit of an introduction of the company itself, which is Job in Kathmandu Valley. We are in affiliation with the Nepal Realistic Solution, and Nepal Realistic Solution is a management consultancy, and we provide boutique services to our clients whenever they have issues in finance, marketing, HR, or any management consultancy. We also provide IS certification to our clients. So feel free to like our page or even contact us via the email or phone numbers that we've provided in the Facebook page. Whereas the Job in Kathmandu Valley is under the umbrella brand of Nepal Realistic Solution, and we provide staff placement services, and we also provide freelancing services for our candidates who register themselves under the Job in Kathmandu Valley website. Along with the Job in Kathmandu Valley, we do have other job portals as well, which are Job in Butwal, Job in Chitwan, and Job in Pokhara. So wherever you are in Nepal, do register yourself for the upcoming opportunities and jobs. Turning to this live session itself, today's live session is on the Labor Act 2074, and it's going to be a brief, informative, and awareness session on the benefits of Labor Act. So I can assume that everyone present here are involved in work one way or the other, be it now or be in the future. So it's very necessary for us to know about our rights and benefits. So today's live session will be for an hour, and the live session has been divided into two parts. The first is the presentation part, and the second is the discussion part. So you've got any queries regarding the presentation or in the topic itself, to put your queries in the comments in the Facebook Live, and me and my team will try to reach you as soon as possible. So let me just bring up the presentation. So as you all know, today's topic is Labor Act 2074, and we'll be talking about the benefits on the basis of cycle of employment. So what is cycle of employment? So kunai pani euta employment ma gaisaknu bhayepachi, they start from the day that they get hired and ends when they get terminated. So that particular journey is known as cycle of employment. This cycle of employment is further divided into 5 categories or 5 phases, which starts from recruitment itself, which is the hiring process. The second is onboarding, which is induction. The third is safety and development. The fourth is performance appraisal and disciplinary action. And the fifth is offboarding, which is termination. So on the basis of these 5 categories or phases, we'll be talking about the benefits. The benefits will be in perspective of both the employee as well as the employer. Starting with the recruitment itself. So what is recruitment? Kunai pani job ko vacancy announcement hune dinदेखि लिएर कुनै candidate hire हुने दिनसम्मको journey-लाई हामी recruitment phase भन्छौं. Labor Act ले यो recruitment phase को लागि उहाँहरूले criteria set गरिदिनु भएको छ, which are: number 1, cannot hire a minor. So कुनै पनि candidate below 16 age को हुनुहुन्छ भने none of the company can hire them. They're not eligible for work as they are deemed to be minor. The second point, cannot discriminate on any grounds. So hire गर्दाखेरि कुनै पनि ground, be it sex, gender, religion, caste, color, कुनै पनि groundमा discrimination गर्न मिल्दैन. So as you all can see, I'm a female, and by caste, I'm Newar. So if I'm hiring people, I cannot say that I'll only hire people who are females or who are Newar. I need to give equal opportunities to every one of them and only select them on the basis of their quality, skills, and knowledge. Number 3, no discrimination on the ground of sex for the remuneration. So your point pulls down on life, and I'll give you an example. After all the screening process and interview process, they think that your female is capable of coming into the work. So employment offer गर्दाखेरि उहाँले यदि vacancy announcement मा उहाँको salary 60K छ भनेर mention गरिदिनु भएको छ भने 60K भन्दा कम offer गर्न मिल्दैन. But in Nepal's context, these practices have been coming into place. किन होला त? In my point of view, I think that employerले चाहिँ lady candidate night hours सम्म बस्न सक्नुहुँदैन अथवा overtime गर्न सक्नुहुन्न because of their family commitment or be it their security. Argo point, Nico, employer even think that they are liable towards the female candidate more as they'll have to pay for the maternity leave. Junma चाहिँ a female candidate is entitled to get 60 days paid leave. So यो कुराहरुलाई point हरुलाई राखेर उहाँले चाहिँ 60K भन्दा कमको स्यालेरीहरु पनि दिइराख्नु भएको छ. But Labor Act says it's not good. The fourth point, which is remuneration and benefits, should meet the minimum requirement as per the law. So Labor Act मा minimum requirement हाम्रो salary को हाम्रो benefits को minimum requirement तोकिदिनु भएको छ. So while hiring or while vacancy announcement, यो requirement चाहिँ meet हुनुपर्छ. The last point, which is employment types. यो कुरा भनेको हामी as an employer like it's very helpful. So कस्तो conditions मा or कस्तो employment categories मा चाहिँ we can hire an employee. The first is regular employment, which is also known as full-time employment. The second, which is work-based employment, यो भनेको हाम्रो project-based employment हुन्छ. The third is time-based employment. The fourth is casual employment. To explain on this more, for an example, restaurant कुन time मा धेरै peak season हुन्छ त? For example, जब हाम्रो स्कुलहरु छुट्टी हुन्छ तब बाउआमाले उहाँहरुलाई recreation को लागि restaurant लिएर जानुहुन्छ. So त्यो peak hour मा compensate गर्नको लागि employer can hire an employee for that particular time period only. That's called casual employment. The fifth is part-time employment. The sixth is apprenticeships and internships is the same, but they are totally different. They're similar, but different. कसरी त भन्दाखेरि apprenticeships usually last from a year to 3, whereas internships last from a month to 3 months. Internships means the employers can only give allowances, food allowances or travel allowances, and does not need to meet the minimum requirement, but apprentices ma चाहिँ पर्छ. Similarly, trainees ma पनि minimum requirement fulfill गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ, तर training period सकेपछि it is not important that the employer offer them the job. So ये context ma, recruitment के context ma, there are few other points that I would like to add. So तपाईहरुले पनि याद गर्नु भएको होला, अहिले नेपाली marketमा you can see that it's not just the organization that are hiring the people. So third-party agencies are पनि दुई खालीको services हरु हुन्छ. The first one is outsourcing. The second one is placement. So outsourcing मा चाहिँ usually they send employees, अनि employees का payroll चाहिँ outsourcing company मै हुन्छ. Then in terms of placement, they send employees, and उहाँहरुको payroll चाहिँ hiring organization कै भित्र हुन्छ. So the placement through बाट जानुहुन्छ तपाईहरु, usually the remuneration and the benefits given by the organization is higher. But when you go through outsourcing, जुन चाहिँ remuneration हरु provide गरिएको हुन्छ, the outsourcing team tends to deduct certain percentage, saying that it's their outsourcing fees. So it's better to go via the placement services itself or go directly to the organization. The other point I would like to add पहिलाको point भनेको employee perspective बाट भयो. The second point is in terms of a recruiter. How would I know? You know, हामी vacancy announcement गर्छौं, त्यो true हो कि real हो कि false हो कि भनेर how would we know? So to overcome such issues, what we can do is जब हामीले इन्टरभ्यूमा क्यान्डिडेट्सहरुलाई बनाउँछौं, we can ask them to bring their original documents and screen them and check them if they're true or not. So एक प्रकारको screening त त्यहाँबाट भइसक्छ. But me being an HR itself and a recruiter, I kind of find a loophole in Nepalko market. So किन भन्दाखेरि original documents ल्याइसकेपछि पनि how would I know that's a real certified copy भनेर चाहिँ. अब जस्तै कि हाम्रो पासपोर्टहरु, हाम्रो citizenship certificateहरु, there are mechanism done by Nepal government where we can check their verification. तर जुन educational certificates or training certificates हुन्छ, we cannot check them. But in abroad, we definitely can. So we being an employer, we need to overcome this. To add on this particular point, fake documents, I'll take a recent example. 2 months back, there were about 6 to 7 doctors who gave fake documents in order to get jobs. So it's the cases, people found out that they submitted fake documents. So what happened? The employer filed a case against them in the labor court and actions were taken. So the doctor भएर fake documents submit गर्नु भएको छ, उहाँले त operation गर्नुपर्ने मान्छेहरुमाथि. It's a very severe consequences, सानो mistake भए पनि. So यस्तो कुराहरु being an HR recruitment कसरी चाहिँ हामीले overcome गर्न सक्छ त? So not only relying on the certificates, what we can do is take mock tests or do psychological test. धेरैवटा online platformहरुले यस्तो testहरु provide गरिराख्नु भएको छ, so we can utilize at its fullest. The other point I would like to add as well is being an employee, whenever you go for an interview, it's very necessary that you know what to expect. Usually interviewer say questions, what do you expect? What's your salary expectation? So you need to know the market range and prepare yourself. So oily market range, entry level, it's 15,000 rupees till 30,000. In a supervisor level, it starts from 30,000 to 60,000. In a managerial level, it starts from 60 to 1,120,000. Or in a chief executive level, it starts from 90 to 170,000. It totally depends on the industry and the qualifications that you have. Your information, I've brought it from the vacancy announcement of various organizations. So this is just an average and to give you an idea. So recruitment पछि, an employee goes through onboarding. So onboarding मा चाहिँ के कस्तो हुन्छ त? Hiring भएपछि कुनै employee-लाई company-मा लगेर त्यहाँको mission, vision, culture को inductions-हरु हुन्छ. The induction prime time-मा what documents do you need? What documents do you need to get? And कस्तो खालको entitlements-हरु चाहिँ you need to get भन्ने कुराहरु I'm going to explain. So onboarding मा पनि labor law has set some criteria. So your criteria, do listen very carefully, be mindful. This is a very important part. Being an employee, you need to get your employee contract from the date of join itself. And you do employment contract, remuneration, benefits, and conditions of employment are mentioned in the person. I'm specifically focusing on this particular part. For an example, if तपाईं कुनै interview मा जानुहुन्छ अनि they offer you 25,000, but at the end of the month they only give you 23,000. So अब तपाईले कुन बेसिसमा चाहिँ उहाँले गएर भन्नुहुन्छ कि मलाई 2,000 पुगेको छैन भनेर? त्यो oral contract मात्र भएको थियो, तपाईहरुको कसैले त अरूले सुनेको थिएन. So if you get your employment contract signed, it is as a written and a signed document and can be taken as a base even to fight a legal action. So employment contract is very necessary. यसपछि हामी जान्दैछौँ हाम्रो entitlementहरुमा. So the first entitlement is remuneration. So as of 1st of Shravan 2078, government has mentioned that the minimum wage should be 15,000 rupees per month. So 15,000 rupees has been mentioned, taking into consideration all the inflation of the last year. The 15,000 is further divided into two categories. One is basic wage. The second is allowance. So basic wage भनेको तपाईको 15,000 को on an average 60% हुन्छ, whereas allowance is the rest of the 40%. Government of Nepal has even further divided them into daily as well as in per hour basis. On a daily average of in a minimum of 577 rupees can be earned, whereas in a per hour basis, 77 rupees can be earned. Labor Act minimum requirement मात्र मेन्सन गरिदिनु भएको छैन कि उहाँहरूले कुन टाइममा र कुन टाइम फ्रेम भित्र यो स्यालेरी तिरिसक्नुपर्छ एम्प्लोयरले भनेर पनि मेन्सन गर्नु भएको छ. There are cases, which is the first one, if the working period is less than 4 weeks, it should be paid within 3 days after the work is done. Second, which is casual work, the payment should be done immediately after the work is done. The third one, which is the regular employment, the full-time employment, this payment should be done at the very end of each month, but the payment of the previous and the forthcoming payment should not be more than 1 month. Labor Act, they've even mentioned that an employee is entitled to a festival allowance, which is a one-time allowance, and it's equal to the basic wage of 1 month. So being an employee, you can ask for festival allowance according to the religion that you follow. So me being a Hindu, I can ask my festival allowance to be given during Dasai or Tihar. Or if you're a Muslim, Buddhist, or Christian, you can ask during Eid, Losar, or Christmas accordingly. So remuneration is the first kind of entitlement. Moving on to the second kind of entitlement, which is benefits. So according to the Nepal government law, it has brought a program of Social Security Fund program, so which covers the Provident Fund, the gratuity, and the insurance. पहिला चाहिँ organization used to contribute in the 3 different categories separately. But there has been a provision brought that if you contribute in the Social Security Fund, the 10-day category is fulfilled. So on this, employee and employer both contribute. So the employee contribute 11%, whereas the employer contribute 20%. So according to the Nepal government law itself, it's necessary that the employer contributes or gets the employee registered under the Social Security Fund. So Social Security Fund ma contribute गरेपछि के कस्तो benefits हरु पाइन्छ अथवा के कस्तो scheme हरु पाइन्छ भनेर we are going to discuss in the next live session. So follow us and we'll notify you when we'll be coming live in the next section. Going on to the third kind of entitlement, which is work hours. Labor Act, in a regular basis, an employee can only work up to 8 hours or a maximum of 48 hours in a week, which is 6 days a week. So त्यसमा weekमा एक दिनको छुट्टी चाहिँ पाउनै पर्ने हुन्छ. Even when they work for 8 hours a day, half an hour break, it's compulsory for them to have lunch or have recreational activities. But कुनै organizationमा जस्तै कि factory, production industryहरुमा operationsहरु stopै गर्न मिल्दैन त. त्यस्तो बेलामा employerले के गर्न मिल्छ? They can allocate the rest time turn by turn to the employees and carry on with the operation. Again, कुनै टाइममा there has been cases where deadline meet गर्नलाई they can ask the employee to do overtime. Overtime गर्दाखेरि they cannot ask them to work more than 4 hours a day or 24 hours a week. That's the maximum overtime criteria. So whenever an employee works overtime, they're entitled to get 1.5 times of the basic remuneration or 150% of the basic remuneration. Female candidate security taken as a base, Labor Act has also mentioned that if they work before the sunrise or work after the sunset, transportation facility should be provided by the employer itself. The last kind of entitlement for an employee is leave. As you all can see, there are various kinds of leave. The first one is public holiday. So Nepal government, each year calendar nikalda, there are various numerous public holidays, but amongst them, employee can only give them 13 days leave, including the May Day. Whereas in the sick leave, an employee is entitled to 12 days of sick leave. Similarly, in an annual leave, they're entitled to 1 day per 20 working days. But 20 working days, 1 day calculations in many of the employer, what they do is they calculate as per 1 day per month. But in terms of female candidates, they even get maternity leave. They can take a leave up to 14 weeks, amongst which only 60 days is paid. Labor Act has even mentioned that an employee can accumulate their leave. They can accumulate up to 90 days for the annual leave and 45 days for their sick leave. But जब employee काम छोडेर जानुहुन्छ or उहाँ retire हुनुहुन्छ उहाँले annual leave को मात्रै encashment गर्न सक्नुहुन्छ, sick leave को चाहिँ गर्न सक्नुहुन्न. So these were the entitlements an employee can get. We're going to the third phase, which is safety and development. So safety and development, Labor Act has said that an employee must get a training if he or she needs to operate equipment, heavy equipment, or use any chemicals during his or her employment. The employer also needs to provide fire drills, training, or emergency issue trainings to their employees. So fire exit or fire drills are if emergency exit or safe entry are employees are arrange for the taking into consideration employer safety factor as well as outsiders to plant visit taking into consideration, they need to formulate and implement a policy. The policy labor office register. So ye topic, safety and development, I would like to give an example. So recently, 7 days back, I guess, there was an incident in CG company where they had a fire in the brewery. Do you think that training provide bako thena hola ta? In my point of view, training provide nabako ineki. Training provide गरेर मात्रै पुग्दैन, त्यहाँ त उहाँहरुले practice sessionsहरु पनि गराउनु पर्ने हुन्छ. So it's very important that certain intervalमा चाहिँ fire drills अथवा emergency drills चाहिँ practice session हुनै पर्छ, so that they're aware and they're ready to take actions whenever they have an emergency issues or fire issues. The next topic is performance appraisal and disciplinary action, which is the fourth phase. So after an employee works for a year in an organization, he or she is entitled to get a performance appraisal. So it is done annually, and performance appraisal garदाखेरि annual increment पनि गरिन्छ, but it's totally subjected to the performance of the employee. Annual increment garदाखेरि increment चाहिँ employee को half basic remuneration of a year को हिसाबले increase हुनुपर्ने हुन्छ. But as an employer or as an employee, how do you know it's fair that तपाईको increment हुन लागिरहेछ वा हुन लागिरहेछ भनेर? So in Nepal, many of the organization, what they do is 90-degree performance appraisal, which is me being an employee, मेरो performance appraisal गर्दाखेरि मेरो supervisor, मेरो CEO अथवा मेरो HR सँग performance appraisal गरिन्छ. But in such cases, if मेरो supervisor ले मेरो काम अथवा मलाई personally रुचाउनुहुन्न भने, what they can do is discriminate and stop my annual increment or promotions. So what I like to say to the employer is, it is very necessary that you guys do 360-degree performance appraisal. Junma, it's not only hierarchy को basis मा मात्र हैन कि उहाँसँग जति पनि डिपार्टमेन्ट को मान्छेहरु अट्याच हुनुहुन्छ उहाँसँग performance appraisal गरियो भने it's fair and it's beneficial for both the employee as well as the employer. After performance appraisal, Labor Act मा चाहिँ disciplinary actions हरुको बारे पनि मेन्सन गर्नु भएको छ. So on the basis of the severity of the misconducts, a different disciplinary actions can be taken. यसमा हामी चाहिँ formal notice को बारे कुरा गर्न गइरहेको छौं. So कुन circumstances हरुमा चाहिँ formal notice हरु दिने मिल्छ त? The first is if कुनै employee without approval absent हुनुभयो भने. The second is without permission workplace leave गर्नुभयो भने. The third is frequently workमा चाहिँ late arrive गर्नुभयो भने. The fourth is आफ्नो supervisor अथवा आफ्नो manager को orders disobey गर्नुभयो भने. In such circumstances, formal notice can be given. The other kind of disciplinary action that can be taken is remuneration of an equal to a day can be deducted. Cost of circumstances are matter. Job an employee gives a letter or a formal notice and that's refused, it can be taken. The second is kuna illegal strike if they take part or auto or force गर्नुहुन्छ भने. Third is kuna intentionally your organization property like damage गर्नु खोज्नु भएको छ भने. The fourth is a fake documents to provide गरेर benefit लिन खोज्नु भएको छ भने. Fifth is equipment जुन चाहिँ उहाँहरुले चलाउनु पर्छ भनेर हायर गरेको छ, the equipment चलाउन नमान्नु भएको अवस्थामा. अनि sixth, similar circumstances. The third kind of disciplinary action that an employer can take is termination. If उहाँले गर्नु भएको misconduct एकदमै severe छ भने termination सम्म पनि गर्न मिल्छ. कस्तो अवस्थामा गर्न मिल्छ त? यदि कुनै employee employerलाई harm गर्नु खोज्नु भएको छ भने, enterprise को property लाई harm गर्नु खोज्नु भएको छ भने, or if they are taking bribe, if they are faking their educational certificates, हैन? अनि त्यसले गर्दा 30 days भन्दा absent हुनुभयो भने without notice termination गर्न मिल्छ. अथवा outside work नै if उहाँले criminal offense गर्नु भएको छ भने पनि गर्न मिल्छ. If they come to work taking narcotic substances or liquor or take during the work hours itself, they can be terminated. Or उहाँले company को कुनै confidential information leak गर्नु भएको छ with an intention to harm the company. In such cases, termination can be done as well. So labor law ले चाहिँ employee ले misconduct गर्दाखेरि मात्र disciplinary action लिनुहुन्न कि they even take disciplinary action when it's on behalf of the employer itself. So for an example, a month back, there was this case where a recruitment company was taking a lot of money from their employer in order to give them employment. Two cases ma, the particular employee labor court ma gaera uहाँहरुले complaint file गरिदिनु भयो. Then the labor law took the necessary action by taking away the license of the recruitment company. So this पछि the recruitment company ले कुनै पनि recruitment कामहरु गर्न सक्नु भएन. So it's not that labor law ले चाहिँ employerहरुलाई मात्रै priority दिने हैन कि उहाँहरुले चाहिँ employee as well as employer दुवैलाई prioritize गर्नुहुन्छ. You can even hear अहिले newsहरुमा that there are certain circumstances where sexual harassment or mental harassment is been going. So this is circumstances हरुमा चाहिँ के गर्न सकिन्छ त? If it's an employee is who he is doing sexual harassment, that's the cases हरुमा चाहिँ severity or disciplinary actions are लिने मिल्छ. But if it's an employer who's doing it, employee अथवा employee को family can file a complaint against him in the labor court and necessary actions will be taken. So कतिधेरै केसेसहरुमा चाहिँ employee tend to switch their jobs rather than raising their voice. In my point of view, I think you cases you labor actually भन्नुभएको set rules and regulations बारेमा aware हुनु नभएको कारणले गर्दा I guess they're switching jobs. So it's very necessary that you guys know your rights and benefits and take actions against the wrongdoing. We're going on to the last phase, which is offboarding, also known as termination. So offboarding चाहिँ चारवटा category मा मैले generalize गरेको छु. One is termination. The other is layoff. The third is resignation. And the fourth is retirement. So we go into the retirement section first. Josma चाहिँ, if an employee doesn't show any kind of good behavior or good work progress in his or her performance for 3 or more than 3 consecutive years, two basis an employer can terminate the employee. Or if work-related injury medical treatment and they don't return to work after 6 months, an employee can terminate them. But if an employee gets into accident during the work itself or has an occupational disease, in such circumstances, employer let's say terminate गर्न मिल्दैन. त्यस्तो केसेसहरुमा चाहिँ employerले उहाँहरुको expenses जति पनि medical treatment expenses छ त्यो बिहोर्नु पर्ने हुन्छ. But if they are contributing in the social security fund, त्यो चाहिँ social security fund ले नै दिदिनुहुन्छ. So expenses does not need to be beared by the employer. We're going on to the second kind of offboarding, which is layoff. So layoff भनेको चाहिँ कुनै organization मा financial crisis आइरहेको छ वा उहाँहरुलाई financial status मा गाह्रो भइरहेको छ भने they can shut down their organization as well as a particular department and lay off people. But a layoff गर्दाखेरि they need to give 30 days prior notice to their employee so that they can look for another kind of jobs or they can secure any other doing. So layoff got 30 days prior notice they need to go phase by phase while laying off. The first phase is they need to lay off the foreign employers first and give priority to the nationals. The second phase is just June employee धेरै misconductsहरु गर्नुभएको छ उहाँले ले अफ गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ सेकेन्ड फेजमा. थर्ड फेजमा जुन एम्प्लोयीको अरु एम्प्लोयीहरु भन्दा वीक परफर्मेन्स छ उहाँलाई ले अफ गर्न सकिन्छ. र लास्ट एन्ड फरमोस्टमा चाहिँ जो एम्प्लोयी लास्टमा अपॉइन्ट हुनु भएको छ उहाँलाई प्रायोरिटी दिएर लास्टमा नै ले अफ गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ. सो ले अफ गर्दा 30 डेज क्राइटेरिया मात्रै मिट नगरी अरु क्राइटेरियाहरु पनि मिट गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ एम्प्लोयरले, which has been stated by the Labor Act, which are उहाँले चाहिँ एम्प्लोयरले चाहिँ 1 day base one year को basic salary as a compensation चाहिँ they need to provide to their employee if they have worked more than a year. But if 1 year भन्दा कुनै employee less काम गरिराख्नु भएको छ भने चाहिँ in such cases proportionate compensation should be given. But again, if they contribute in the Social Security Fund, such compensation need not be given as the Social Security Fund will be giving unemployment benefits to the employee. But if enterprise shutdown हुनुको कारण is government order अथवा labor law order, in such cases, none of the above will be applicable. The other cases where such criteria would not be applicable is जब कुनै अर्गनाइजेसनमा 10 अथवा 10 भन्दा कम एम्प्लोइजहरु हुनुहुन्छ भने in such cases retrenchment criteriaहरु कुनै पनि मिट हुनु पर्दैन. But again, saying that if in future after 2 years उहाँहरुले आफ्नो operation again ल्याउनु खोज्नु भएको छ भन्दा त्यस्तो बेलामा चाहिँ उहाँलाई लेबर चाहिए बापत जो ले अफ हुनु भएको छ उहाँहरुलाई प्रायोरिटी दिनुपर्ने हुन्छ. But प्रायोरिटी दिनु भएको छैन भने कुनै एम्प्लोयीले 35 days भित्र लेबर कोर्टमा एप्लिकेसन राख्न सक्नुहुन्छ and the labor court will take the necessary doings. So layoff को टपिकमा भन्नु पर्दाखेरि it has been coming into place a lot in such circumstances where we are battling COVID. यो बेलामा चाहिँ many of the organizations due to the financial crisis close हुनु परेको छ. त्यो बेलामा चाहिँ it's very necessary that you know your rights and take actions accordingly. We're going to the third kind of offboarding, which is voluntary offboarding and is also known as resignation. So if an employee is not happy with their work in an office, they can resign from their work, but it's very necessary that they give a resignation letter. and prior. So resignation letter दिएको 15 दिनभित्र चाहिँ employerले it needs to notify its employee that it's been accepted. यदि notify गर्नुभएको छैन भने it will be deemed as it's accepted. Notify त्यो भयो employer को पार्टबाट, employee को पार्टबाट. But in terms of employer, Labor Act has mentioned that resignation letter is a case by case prior notice that दिनुपर्ने हुन्छ. The first case is if an employment is less than 4 weeks, 1 day prior notice should be given. In the second case, if the case employment is more than 4 weeks and up to a year, 7 days prior notice should be given. And in the third case, if the employment is more than a year, 30 days prior notice should be given. So your pointer is ekdam yaad garnu hola. Kina bhanda, if you guys resign without giving prior notice, consequences huncha. Junma employee can deduct तपाईहरुको resign गर्नुपर्ने prior period मा जति पनि कमाउन सक्नुहुन्छ त्यो amount तपाईले पाउने remuneration बाट deduct गरेर दिन सक्नुहुन्छ, अथवा सबै तपाईले पाउनु पर्ने benefits, तपाईले पाउनु पर्ने remuneration सबै नदिन सक्नु पनि हुन्छ. So there are two cases depending on the organization itself. Deduct गरेर दिन सक्नु पनि हुन्छ वा पुरै नदिन सक्नु पनि हुन्छ. We're moving on to the last kind of offboarding, which is compulsory offboarding and also known as retirement. So Labor Act has said that when you reach to an age of 58 years, you need to retire compulsorily. So 58 years, but you say you're not eligible to work for any other company, but you can work on your own as a consultant. In such cases, employee paunu parne benefits as well as remuneration within 15 days after his or her retirement. It needs to provide them with their remuneration and benefits. The same goes for the termination case. Yadi uहाँहरुले deduct गरेर उहाँहरुले remuneration मा benefits दिन चाहनुहुन्छ भने 15 दिनभित्र दिइसक्नुपर्ने हुन्छ. But अघि मैले भने जस्तै कोभिड को कारणले गर्दा वा अरु कुनै कारणले गर्दा फाइनान्शियल क्राइसिस भएर कुनै अर्गनाइजेसन क्लोज हुनु पर्यो अथवा लिक्विडेट हुनु पर्यो भने the remuneration needs to be the topmost priority to be given after even selling their assets. So assets उहाँहरुसँग भएको assets sell गरेर भयो भने topmost priority चाहिँ कुनै लेबर को remuneration र benefits pay गर्न नै दिनुपर्ने हुन्छ. But कुनै केसेसहरुमा कम्पनीसँग पैसा नै छैन, remuneration benefits दिनलाई नै पैसा छैन अथवा assets चाहिँ छैन भने चाहिँ लेबर कोर्टमा अपील गर्न सक्नुहुन्छ and actions will be taken accordingly. So I would like to end my presentation here. Thank you all for listening so briefly and so confidently. Thank you so much. So we'll be moving on to the discussion rounds where we will be taking questions and answering it to them. So I'll be stopping the presentation now. Okay. So my teammates have shot me some questions that you guys have given us. Okay, let me just bring that up. So the first question that you've asked is, so if कुनै company-मा minimum requirement-हरु fulfill भएको छैन वा minimum benefits-हरु fulfill भएको छैन भने के गर्न सकिन्छ त भनेर तपाईले question raise गर्नु भएको छ. So in such cases, तपाईहरुले आफ्नो employer को against case file गर्न सक्नुहुन्छ. You can go to the labor court and file your case, and needful doings will be done. The cases को severity हेरेर labor court can put a fine on the employer or even stop their operations. So if तपाईहरुलाई तपाईहरुको minimum requirement पनि पाउनु भएको छैन भने you can raise your voice. We are waiting for the second round of question, which is somebody has asked that if union को मागहरु नै employer ले सुन्नु भएन अथवा त्यसमा डिस्कस गर्नलाई आउनु भएन भने चाहिँ के गर्न सकिन्छ त भने you guys have raised a question. In such cases, what we can do is, so union commander can appeal to the court saying that our employer hasn't come for a discussion round, and could you please give an order to the employee to do it? So labor court will issue an order to the employer, and labor court le bhaneको time र destination ma चाहिँ discussion ko लागि आउनु पर्ने हुन्छ. Discussion गर्दाखेरि अथवा negotiation गर्दाखेरि if त्यो मागहरू fulfill भएन भने any of the party, be it the employer as well as an employee, can file a complaint against in the court saying that mag fulfill bhaena and we would like to go further by going to arbitration and mediation process. So arbitration and mediation process ma tapaharuko negotiation bhaera यदि decision fulfill bhayo athwa meet bhayo bhane it's good, but if meet bhaena bhane labor court gaining all the evidences and tapaharuko negotiation discussions points आधार मानेर they will make a decision, and labor court's decision will be the full and the final decision. So both employee as well as the employer needs to abide by it. So आजको हाम्रो 1 घण्टाको सेसन सकिन आँटेको छ. हजुरहरुको अरु के क्वेशन छ भने राख्दिनु होला. My team and I will privately message you guys and try to resolve it. I can see a few other questions that have been raised and my team has started replying to you all already. So having said that, I guess no more questions has been raised. So I would like to end today's live session. But stay in touch, do follow us in Job in Kathmandu Valley page as well as the Nepal Realistic Solution page so that you guys can get an update about when our next live session will be. And we will be talking about Social Security Fund and their schemes on the next live session. Saying that, I would like to end today's live session and thank you all for your participation and your questions. And hopefully, I guess I've answered all your questions in a right way. And thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Namaste.